that say incredible dad or incredible actor? What's that say? I need to engrave something on there real white trash.
I think it's both.
Good morning. How
Oh,
are you?
good morning, Mr. Alexander Sir Kane.
Yeah,
How are you, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for acknowledging my knighthood, my Southern gentleman knighthood.
Well, I have to say, Alex, I'm a big fan. You're a hustler. You got a lot of things going on. I know last year was a difficult year, and the good news is a lot of folks are seeing this podcast. Did some tracking everywhere from Europe, Middle East, America, everywhere.
I saw,
So,
man.
yeah, yeah, thank you. So, I want to start out by please tell me who you are, what your background is, and then we'll just dive in and go from there.
Well, the funny thing about having to tell, I say this on a speech or stage a lot, is when somebody introduces you, you have to tell them a lot about yourself. I go, Tom Cruise doesn't have to tell you about himself, so obviously I'm not doing a very good job of being famous. I'm just a Southern boy, just a Burt Reynolds wannabe from South Georgia. Alexander Kane didn't start acting until I'm sure we'll get into this later, but I didn't start in this game till I was like 37 years old. So I've only been doing it about 6 years. And it's kind of, I come at it from a very unorthodox way. So I had 6 kids and I was already retired from oil and gas. So,
Wow.
but here I am 6 years later, having produced $126 million worth of movies, mostly in
Wow.
one small town in South Georgia, which is obviously where I had your pretty mug down here. Yeah, I'm gonna refer to you as Gator during this whole interview.
All right, so just so you know why he's calling me Gator, I played a role, Gator, in a movie that Alexander produced in Georgia. That's how we met, and we kept in touch 30 years. But yeah,
footnote,
man.
footnote, footnote. Quentin Tarantino in an interview said it's his. I think he said it's his favorite shitty Bruce Willis movie. He specifically pointed out the higher quality of production and the care that people put into Deadlock. Now, is that a ringing endorsement to go watch it? Absolutely not, because I don't get a dime for it. But watch anything. You know what? I would like to, as you figure out where to work this in, because you have the conversational skills, my man. But I would like to talk about people that I jokingly in jest say the shitty Bruce Willis movies, but all art is somebody's art. And as independent filmmakers, you know this. We know the limitations of what we make. And then we watch that thing that we put our heart and soul into, knowing it doesn't have the resourceful potential to make it to a big action comedy or whatever it's going to be. And yet we have to just go in knowing the reviews 90% are going to be to hell with this turd. There's not, you can watch, I've seen this movie before. Dude, if you knew the 80,000 people it took just to get, and years it took to get this one little movie on the screen, and then every part of it, from the editing to the casting to everybody's whim and desire, has to come together perfectly. Like, making a movie is impossible, Stephen, which I want to talk to you about, but making a good movie is almost really impossible. Like, because everybody, what you realize is, like, imagine painting a canvas, right? And while you're trying to paint, 3 other people with brushes come in and start doing this on your painting while you're painting. And I know
Yeah.
nobody knows that trouble more than a writer, director, actor, producer like yourself.
Thank you.
Right.
You're right.
And
100%.
so, again, I'm just learning this business. And much like this interview, I just jump in a boat with both feet. Right. And
Let me give you a compliment real quick, man. I got to tell you a couple of things. First of all, I know how hard it was to make that movie, and then you continue doing it even after that. But the one thing that, to your point about people talking about reviewers about, oh, it was this, it was that. Listen, most of the time, those reviewers don't even have a clue how to go about making a movie. Start out with. So that's
amen.
number one. And number two is that the fact that making movies and telling art and stories is a risk, and it's a risk factor, and you put your passion into it because you have something to say. And I think one of the things that you have, and especially for where you're doing your films, is that there's a skill set and there's a passion and there's an honesty, every
There
man
you go.
kind of thing that's going on. So by no means should you take less credit for the amount of things that you've accomplished. It's not easy. I mean, listen, man. Please continue. But yes, Tarantino was 100% right.
Yeah, and I think I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I thought I heard him say, and I just fell in love with that Gator character. He said the chub I
Oh my
got while
God.
watching that guy act. I gotta tell you,
Yeah, no,
hasn't he hit you up for Once Upon a Time in Palm Springs?
listen, yeah, that's exactly right. Let me tell you something, man. I want to talk about you in this, and I'll just touch on Gator for a second. That was a difficult shoot. It was a lot of things going on, and it wasn't easy. But thank goodness for guys like yourself and your team. I mean, Mike and everybody else involved. These are all good people who are trying to do good work. So that is why that movie was produced properly, and the film is one of the better Bruce Willis, independent films. It's what it is.
It was a
And
reverse Die Hard, pretty much.
yes, it
You know,
was.
it was supposed to be a nuclear power plant, which I was like, what? This is impossible. So I turned it into a hydroelectric power dam. I got to say, it's also I will say this. I'm only doing this for fun. Like the money's great, but it's trying to make money in independent films. My God, that's harder than anything else I've ever tried to do.
Yeah.
If you're a crew member or a producer or an actor, you're wishing on a star to get a pocket full of money just for doing an independent film. You're more likely to end up costing yourself money.
100%,
But
yeah.
you had fun the whole way, and it's the relationships that you take with you that further your career. It's not the money you make from an independent film. And we will talk about, I hope by the time we get to the end of this, we've honed in more. I know wrangling me is like wrangling cats. I get that. It's like herding a bunch of cats. But we will get to talking about how we think that the future of independent film should go. Because I do have some strategies on how you could, make it more efficient and make money on it while still keeping the fun. Because if you don't have the fun, I don't want to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Go ahead.
I want to say the most important thing for me to highlight on this is I would be absolutely nowhere in my career at all had I not handpicked a crew of people that I loved and had fun with on every movie set I was on as an actor, and then believed in their recommendations. And then I did the one unique thing that I think I don't even know if Harvey Korman did it this way, but I've heard stories that he did. But this specifically, that I keep the exact same crew. No turnover.
Yeah.
So we're on like film 16 or 15 now. And some people do keep their core, but it's kind of unheard of to keep the entire crew. I mean, our PA to our DP, same guys.
It's amazing.
126 million. And so that, their commitment to excellence, their attitude they bring of like, I'm more interested in making a good movie than getting a paycheck, and embracing people like, as you see it, you just kind of become part of the family.
Yes, absolutely.
And I mean, you'd be on every movie we had if you could run a camera. You know what I mean? Like, you're a producer, you're an actor.
No, you got Cox for that. You got Mr. Cox.
Brandon Cox, one of the greatest DPs. Very underrated. Tyler Eccles is now DPing and directing everything under the sun. And he and I came. That's a testament to it. The first thing I did was a short film called Potter's Ground. It still may be the best thing I ever did. You probably know some of these where you
Yes,
think you're going to do something, you'll just brush off. It ends up being the best thing on your reel. So my
100%.
short film, I took a guy from there who was a Swiss Army knife. I said, Tyler's got all the talent in the world. We stayed in touch. We immediately were like, what are we going to, I go to set and I look for a guy or a woman or an ogre or a Sasquatch. I don't care what you are, gender, race, creed, whatever. If you're talented and you have passion, number one, and ability to put yourself second to others. Those are the two things I look for. If you're sticking your hand in the cookie jar more than everybody else, or you're looking out for number one more than everybody else, you got to go. So I look for people that go, it's not all about me, and I'm super passionate about filmmaking, and I'm willing to fight for what they think is good.
100%.
You got that, and you got a good person first, and then a great filmmaker too. Why would I not want to work with those people? It's the Adam Sandler effect. Keep the guys around that you like
100%.
to be around.
100%.
So,
you guys have a really good machinery where you're at in Georgia. And I have to say, going back to Brandon Cox, I mean, Brandon had my back on Deadlock for a number of reasons, and we won't get into the details of that here.
I'll tell you another thing, too, as an actor. Here's any actors you want to be actors or more successful actors or working actors. If you haven't figured this out by now, make friends with the DP and the B camera guy. Because if you look at the B camera guy, A lot of times the A camera guys, the glorified, everybody's looking at him. You go to that B camera guy and he'll go. I say, hey, if you got nothing, put it on me. I'll give you something. I've had directors call and say, Alex, my whole damn B rolls, my whole B cam footage is all you. I said, yeah, because I'm good to the B cam guy. I'll tell him, I say, if you got nothing, just if you got nothing here, just turn the camera on me and I'll give you nothing.
Well, first of all, let me give you this just a little insight of how I see your perspective and everything that you've done. You come from the oil background. I want to hear a little bit more about that, but give me a second to explain where I'm going with this.
Landman, Taylor Sheridan.
Yeah, I mean, you've done a lot of great things there, but the difference between you and other actors that I've come across, I've had guys in Los Angeles and other places where they say, "Oh, you write, right?" Completely forget that I also act. You write, and why don't you write the script for me? These guys are nobody, and make me a star. And I'm like, and then raise the money, and then I'm like, bro,
we're all trying to do the same thing, buddy.
Okay,
we're all trying to do the same thing.
But the spine that you bring to the table, which is you understand work ethics, and this is what makes the difference between what Alexander Kane does with your production company in Georgia versus others. But please continue.
It's common sense, Stephen. It's common sense, brother. Or Gator, excuse me. Gator, listen, it's common sense, Gator. The thing is, I want to do unto others. And I know that's sort of an old Christian throwback, but that's part of my upbringing. And I have learned that if you treat your neighbor better than yourself, yeah, sometimes the neighbor's going to shit on you. But more often than not, while helping someone up, they then want to repay the favor. Every action in life in a lot of ways is selfish. I mean, my God, I will not branch into religion here, but let's not joke around. I mean, 90% of the reason people believe in a deity of any kind, I think, is they want to be saved, right? So it's a selfish reason. I want eternal life. So I want to help you. And the selfish part of it is I feel good for helping you and you help me back. So it's a win-win, right? So you take a selfish, greedy thing, and you make it a good tool for good, which, by the way, we'll get into independent film producers taking greedy Hollywood and overseas corrupt money and using it to make beautiful art and give people jobs. I tell people that all the time when they'll say, "Oh, don't work with this producer or that producer again." I go, "Would you not want their money? Because they're the only ones funding movies right now. It's either that or nothing. And I can take a negative and use it for a positive."
100%.
Listen, my career's made off of people above me that were complete scumbags in a lot of ways. And there's always, listen, there's in their scumbaggery, Gator, sometimes you realize that they're only a scumbag from the system they were born into. Like, I know guys that I do terrible business maneuvers within the industry, but they're not actually bad people one-on-one. They literally were raised in a corrupt system of, like, who can get who can get over on who. And it's a lot of maneuvering. And I would love to peel back the layers on the executive producer side. Newsflash, 42 executive producers on an indie film. Maybe one of them knows what the hell they're doing.
100%. Yeah.
I went to Sundance one time, and a guy was telling me about a movie he produced in Georgia. And he was telling me, trying to sell me on another project. He was telling me how efficiently the movie ran in Georgia. It was my damn movie. I was like, you weren't on set. Well, how do you know it's run efficient? This team in South Georgia is very efficient. They go non-union, all this stuff. I go, yeah, I'm the guy. Like, it's me. Like, you're telling me about my own, like, I was like, who's the gaffer's girlfriend? Yeah. And when he couldn't answer, I'm like, you're no producer.
Yeah.
If you don't know the gaffer, but what's a gaffer's last name?
Yeah.
Bernie Sawyer. That's what it is. And so,
well, yeah.
I mean, there's a couple of things in this business, and I think we can sort of actually go back to the starting gate, which is, I came in not understanding how this is supposed to work, and I'm so thankful for that, right? I didn't know how you're supposed to audition, so I just pulled over on the side of the road one time on a callback and sat on a rock with semis going by in the background and did an audition where you can hear semis and me, and the director was like, not only do I just love you as an actor, but I just like that you didn't panic about needing a blank wall and sound. So you just pulled over the side of the road and held your phone up and did it and sent it in. He's like, I'm casting you just off of that, and
Character.
the accent, by the way, like, okay, let's talk about your immigrant side for a second. Let's go boil back down to the core, because I'm essentially an immigrant to Hollywood as a Southerner, right? Like,
100%. Yeah.
I open my voice and people go, he's married to his sister, he lives in a single wide, he hates blacks, and he's a Christian. I mean, I just open my mouth and they assume 1,000 things of me, right? So I'm like,
I didn't think that. I never thought that, just so you know.
You got the single wide and the married to his sister part right. I do like black people though, and I am a Christian, but you don't have to know that. I mean, it's irrelevant to the business. So being an immigrant or being something like, we're all dealing with this like uphill battle in this business, and it would be remiss to say that look, this is the reality. I don't care what anyone says. Studio wall and fame wall and independent wall are two totally separate things, much like broadcast journalism and Joe Rogan and podcasting, right? It's two very different worlds. You can have success in either. Brad Pitt and I may never cross paths in our entire career,
Right.
And so breaking through that wall is virtually impossible. And isn't it funny how when you have one hit, suddenly they're like, hey, I always knew you were part of us.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah. As Walton Goggins, I think, just got, he just had Fallout and a big success on the TV show. Do you know who Walton Goggins is? If you don't.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, no, he is.
So Walton Goggins is an example of this. They go, man, overnight success. Overnight success, only the best actor for 20 years in everything he's been in. And now suddenly Hollywood goes, oh, we'll let him in now. Now he can come play. And so anyway, so I'm not into that bullshit. I came common sense, like, I don't need you to approve of me to succeed. And it took me about 2 movies to figure out that there's a future of reinventing the wheel. Because, by the way, Hollywood is lost. They don't know the audience anymore. They don't know what the audience wants. They'll remake Smokey and the Bandit as a kid movie with 2 13 and an 11-year-old girl. And you're like, no offense to 13, 11-year-old girls, but we want Jerry Reed and Burt Reynolds. Like, don't touch a classic. And they keep hemorrhaging money. The audience is right there telling you what they want. And they keep making. How many sets you've been on where you were like, this line's not going to play with the audience? And everybody above you goes, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And it's not as simple as brushing it off, dude. Every moment matters. Ask Tarantino and Christopher Nolan if every beat of their movie matters. There's no beat where they just go, hey, that's good enough.
No.
That's good enough. What people don't understand when they see a bad indie movie, you and Jared on Deadlock may not agree, but like the time, the executive producers, the money, the situation does not lend itself to y'all being able to, like, 2 co-writers, 2 actors, an actor-director relationship. You don't have the resources to battle for the best moment. You literally have 10 or 12 or 15 days to shoot. And there is no, like, I hear you, Stephen, that would be great. We can't afford to do it. And you're like, I'm not asking too much. And then you got to convince them. I'm just saying, take it a different way. Well, we don't have time to rewrite. We don't have time to improv. We don't have time to, and that's how a good intention starts to go down the hill and get out of control. And next thing you know, how many times have you sat on the end of a movie going, man, this could have been something?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Could have been something.
Mean, yeah. I usually turn it off before we get there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I will say this. I bring 120% to a movie set every day, but I also go ahead and compartmentalize my personal feelings about where the movie's going and what kind of turn it's taking. And whether the director or producer has started mailing it in after they get their fee, because I can tell you this, the crew is never mailing it in.
Yeah, no.
They're busting their ass till the very end.
Yeah. I have to say something about this, what you're talking about, which is the ideology of filmmaking, right? And I think there's something going on in Hollywood right now, and just from the distribution aspect and everything that's happened after the strike, after COVID,
Yeah.
and along the way, and the destruction of everything that has happened within the system itself, and the streamers taking over and really kind of putting a nowhere land for the independent filmmakers. So you can't pre-sell the movie the way you used to. You can't. There is no guarantees of it. And I think with to your point about them not understanding the audiences, you're 100% right. And I think the country is swayed a different way. And I think we're in the middle of a big shift. I explained this in my other video, and you're in the middle of it. So, how are you affected, and how are you maneuvering through that?
Well, speaking of people being affected, I think that you have talked to me on and offline about this, and you have a real bleeding heart for people. You like people,
Thank
you
you, man.
love people, and I know that you wanted to express how sad and upset you are about the fire, and that's affecting
100%.
not just people out there in the West where you're from, but the crew, because this is impacting jobs. There are actors now that don't have houses. There are crew that don't have houses. There are cast that don't have. Producers don't have houses, and if we're trying to cast a movie right now and go into this movie, and some of our deal making can't be done to close some of these deals because some of the people doing the deals were doing them from the area they're now evacuating. So I would like to express, how sad it is that what's going on with the fire, and how I wish, as one man, very little you can do other than donate or I mean, a lot of people go thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. But I mean, if you're not thinking about them and you're not caring, then you're not going to do anything. So if you put up a link or something after this to something that can donate, that would be fantastic. I'll obviously share it with all my people as well. But can you
100%.
just express quickly before we go back into what seems so trivial right now, which is movies and distribution? Could you just express from your side, because I have hurricanes and floods and
Yeah.
shit over here. Y'all have wildfires, so could you just
Yeah.
kind of briefly touch
Yeah.
on?
Yeah. Yeah, I started noticing it. Friends started texting me about, oh, there's a fire here, there's a fire there. Oh, and then like, you go on your day and you're like, oh no, shit, this is getting worse. Oh, so and so evacuated. Oh, we evacuated. Oh, different people, social media, text. And what I honestly realized, it goes back to humanity. And it goes back to what you and I are talking about here as well, which is it is so sad that people get so caught up in what's going on in their own lives and they forget we forget each other from different parts of the world, including all of the United States and the
Yeah,
rest of the world. And I think what's happening now is people are going into survival mode, and the survival mode that has been obviously in the United States everywhere, and now really, really badly in Los Angeles. And, you know, I didn't think it was going to get any worse in LA after COVID, after two strikes, now a fire that is pretty much worse than
uncontained,
it.
right? Like
Yeah,
they have
any other earthquake,
0% of it
zero,
contained.
and you can't. It's like okay, one, two, three. Like how many more punches does Los Angeles and California have to take? And
Yep.
why is this happening? And there is a shift going on. So my heart goes out to everybody. I feel very, very sad. I've been reposting things that would help people. I will definitely put on a
Yeah.
link from different associations that are involved doing it. But dude, I'm a big animal lover, and I see horses, dogs,
Yep.
cats, I mean rabbits, and I'm like, oh my God. And it's like you and I, we agreed on the date on this thing, and we didn't want to move it because of what's happening. So we brought it up, and this I'm glad you brought it up, and it's something that the reason I decided to not cancel on you, honestly, is because people need a little, I don't want to say entertainment, but take their minds off of something.
100%. 100%. Listen, you can't blame people for in the look when when a tornado happens in Oklahoma, you can't ask everybody in LA to stop their life. You can feel terrible, but not everybody can get in their car, drive out to Oklahoma, and pull bricks off of people's property. The same way here, we're literally recovering from a hurricane Helene that came through. I mean, there was not power here for a month. People died. No joke. I know I joked earlier about the single wide, but a couple of single wides it's funny, but people lost their life. A couple of single whites flew across the field over here and killed people. So,
Oh my
our
God.
hurricane is your wildfire, and so on and so forth. And I've noticed that it takes these 9/11 moments for us to remember, like, hey,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I don't give a damn who you voted for.
Right.
When somebody's hand comes out of the rubble and they reach towards you and you go to help them out of a burning car, or you don't go, hey, before I pull you out, did you vote for Kamala or did you vote for Trump? I just want
Yeah.
to ask that real quick, and then I may or may not pull you. Like
Right.
that's
No.
bullshit.
Yeah.
That is the operation of a business, the country, right? And we have the luxury of having a country to argue over, right? So I want to get back to, and just to say that I want to acknowledge that was going on, and that I mean the crew and the actors that have given their whole lives for that American dream, that Hollywood dream. And I'm a super optimist, but I just feel like that fire, it almost is like putting the dagger in the LA Hollywood movie scene, because I think you're going to have a lot of people look at the cost of rebuilding in Pacific Palisades and all these areas, and they're going to go, I can just move to Austin for a tenth of the money and get
Yeah.
my life back to the standard. I mean, there's a $40 million mansion built with no insurance. Do you think they're going to rebuild that? Probably not. He's probably going to go, I'll go to Florida and
Yeah.
build a $10 million mansion bigger. So I'm just saying that while it is terrible, there is going, I think that fire is going to change some things in terms of just the aggression to say, we've been through COVID, we've been through strikes, we've been through fire. You're going to see a lot of indie filmmakers, a lot of directors, so let me say this, a lot of DPs, a lot of capable DPs, actors, a lot of capable people use this as a stimulus to rise up and say, I'm going to make my own movies.
100%.
I've been
It's
an
already
employee.
happening.
Yeah, I've been an employee for too long. I can tell stories, and the tools to tell stories, AI, all the advancements in how cheap cameras are and how easy to this movies are winning big awards shot on this thing right here,
Yeah.
And so I enjoy it. I will tell you this, brother. You and I came along at the wrong time, because it's a lot easier to be a movie, to make it big in the 70s and 80s when the pool of somebody said, I was telling somebody the other day, I said, Burt Reynolds goes out and tries to become a movie star. He's competing with probably 1,000 to 5,000, maybe let's just go high end, 10,000 of the most attractive leading men in the world that all decided to move to LA. I said, guys like me and Sefer, we're competing with 8 billion people that have a phone trying to get everybody to look at them.
Okay, hold on. Let me inject here. First of all, to our credit and to your credit, you work with some legends. You worked with Bruce Willis. Did you work with Mel Gibson? You did
I
work with Mel
did.
Gibson. Tell me some
And
of the
loved
folks you
every
work.
minute of it.
Tell me some of the names you work with.
Well, let me tell you, I want to speak out here on a guy that I'm very fond of, and I think is going to make a huge comeback. And listen, everybody makes mistakes, and I think everybody stands on their own merit. But from my experience, has been like one of probably my favorite people in the business, and that is James Franco.
I agree with you.
James is actually, when you get to know James, such a great guy. And I mean, listen, I think he got some very unfortunate situations, but I can tell you, being around him and watching him interact with friends of mine and on set, he has been nothing but utterly respectful and very protective over the cast, the crew, ladies. And so James is just such a great artist, and he's such a great guy that I feel you're going to see a resurgence of James Franco in the coming year.
I had a Zoom call with him, and I really liked his personality. I really liked his demeanor. My compassion goes for him in a big way. I think Hollywood is tricky, and
Well,
some.
it's a discretionary business, and the people with the money get to decide who works and who not. I can tell you this: the American audience loves Mel Gibson, loves James Franco, loves Bruce Willis. I mean, that's where I say the disconnect with distribution and studios and executives on what the American domestic audience wants to see and who they're willing to put in there, and that is a segue into your and my current problem, which is distribution right now doesn't know who is valuable to who. They are super confused. You know, you used to could slap an actor or two in a movie, a Bruce Willis and a Frank Grillo and a Mel Gibson or a Thomas Jane, whoever, and you knew the value and you knew how much Dennis Quaid was worth and they knew how much Denzel Washington was worth. Right now, they're like, I don't know if we should put your grandmother in it or if we should put, Chris Pratt in it. So I think there is a fear of them screwing up so badly that now it's paralysis of analysis. It's almost impossible to currently get a movie made. And without some of the legends, which we've talked about that I work with, I just worked with Tommy Lee Jones. Bluntly will tell you he's the most cantankerous old bastard I ever worked with in my life. I like him because he reminds me of all the pipeline guys I work with, like a real man on a ranch. He's got no time for bullshit. But I'm going to tell you, if you're approaching Tommy Lee Jones thinking you're going to get a selfie, you're going to get a lot more than a selfie. But here's the thing, man. I compartmentalize how people are, and I look at like how long has this guy been a movie star, and how long has he lived as a rat on the wheel? And I can totally, I think a lot of the audience should listen to a guy who is the audience. I am a common American.
100%.
I just make movies for a living.
Right.
I am a common American that retired building oil pipelines and doing environmental survey and different types of survey across the country on your energy infrastructure. And I've worked in asphalt, and I've worked in cargo trailer plants, and I've worked in distribution. I've been a normal guy with kids, raising them in a normal world until I just decided I was in a position to pursue my dream of acting.
Amen.
And the perception is these movie stars are out of touch with reality. Of course they are. You should see how they live. And the people, by the way, the one thing that I think that is my message to any movie star that may watch this in the future, like, we should be so lucky that somehow they accidentally stumble upon it. But hear me out. You're surrounding yourself with the wrong people. They're all kissing your ass and telling you everything you're doing is great, and that if you have a thought that is the right thought, you're wrong 90% of the time. They just won't tell you. When you're shocked that Trump got a single vote, or you're shocked that your movie didn't do well, or you're shocked that people feel the way they feel, that's because you left reality. Reality didn't leave you. And it's not your fault. The machine. I admire some of these celebrities that show up like Mel Gibson with no entourage.
Yeah.
No one protecting their sensibilities. Watching James Franco engage with the public is quite refreshing. I'm sure when he was an A-lister and younger, he had 10 people around him probably telling him, like, look at Tom Cruise. The man walks and he's got more secret security, it looks like, than the president. If you get them alone and you talk to them like a normal damn human being, they eat it up and they love it because they're not hearing it from anybody.
They're humans, dude, at the end of the day.
Yeah,
they're people.
I feel like that's why they often gravitate to me and my wife and get our phone number and continues, because when I just go, hey, that movie you did was not good. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, because this, that, or the other. Or I just go, you should go to Waffle House. And they go, I would never go to Waffle House. And I go, why? Because you're better than everyone else. And before you know it, they're like, hey, let's go to Waffle House. Yeah, I took, I won't name the name, but I took a very famous movie star into Golden Corral buffet and made him sit down and eat amongst the people. He's like, man, they'll rush me when I get in there. I go, buddy, no one's going to even know you're in there. No one's going to give a shit. And I was like, these are the people, by the way, that buy your tickets.
Yeah.
You only have $1 billion, Dwayne Johnson, because your WWE fans and us paid. Now, he seems to get it, I will say, The Rock. There's a ton of them, by the way, that get it. But for the reviewers that are watching going, well, these movie stars are so disconnected. If they don't, like, they need to go spend a couple of years in LA and they'll understand, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, unless you've lived in it, you can't understand. And then, I'm going to say this, and I genuinely mean it, Gator. I somewhat feel sorry for some of the movie stars I'm around. Yeah. Because I can tell that they don't even know what's actually going on in the world, or like they're floating on a damn cloud. Like, And I wonder, like, if that's why when they have a misstep in life or a go through turmoil, and then everyone that said they had their back, gone, and then they're suddenly on their own, and everyone that was answering the phone and texting is not answering and texting, and there's no way to cope with that. I was on top of the world. Now no one will even talk to me.
I want to
And
inject something about that.
okay,
I saw the Golden Globes, and I brought this up in my Billy Slaughter interview as well. And I thought it was very poignant to see Adrian Brody go up there and go, I never thought I'd get a chance like this again. And this is a guy
again, keyword.
again. And I was like, wow. Like, so everything you're talking about resonates to that. And then Demi Moore, a
Yep.
producer told me 40 years ago that I could never do this. And look what happened to her. And then I can't believe
Michael
I'm here.
Keaton. How about Michael
Michael,
Keaton when he won and said, like, "Hey, I'm just lucky to be here."
listen, well, the common denominator is the system, not the people.
Oh, no, no. Listen, I get, you don't know how many people I've defended where, I'm a common guy. And so a lot of times people think that the way to commonly bond with me will be like, yeah, those A-list liberal movie star assholes. And I go, actually, they're freaking great. Like when you meet them one on one and you realize why they're movie stars. I mean,
Yeah.
Michael Rooker walks down the street and everybody's freaking out. And if I say Michael Rooker by name, sometimes people will go, who? But sometimes your characters are bigger than your star power, right? He's Yondu, he's Merle, he's Rowdy Burns
100%.
from Days of. He's a bigger star than some stars,
Yeah.
but he's a star based on how many great. This is the ultimate compliment to Michael Rooker's performances. He's a huge star because of his performances, not because
100%.
his off-camera antics. Rooker's a
100%.
guy who's a real man's man with testosterone flowing through his body. I think he's got more testosterone than the entire Ohio State football team. I mean, I'll just get a random FaceTime from him and he'll be like, check this shit out and throw an axe through a tree, and that'll be all he says. And it might be at 3 a.m. because he is literally the most real dude you'll ever see. He works a restaurant, makes sure everybody gets their time, make sure everybody gets their photo, make sure everybody gets their moment with him. He does not withhold. And I find that most of the people that get it, they really embrace the audience, and they're very misunderstood by the audience because they think, oh, he's some big fancy actor. And
Let me ask you a question, Alex. This is so interesting, the stuff you're talking about. Alex today versus Alex 6 years ago. What would Alex today, when he first sees the other Alex showing up 6 years ago, tell him as far as how to maneuver?
I'd say, kid, you got it figured out on day one. Just don't change. Because
Really?
I went in with, I'm going to treat people right. I'm going to do this differently than I'm being told it can be done. I'm going to be loyal. I'm going to treat people right. And I'm not going to change. I'm going to figure out a better way to do it. And that was on my very first movie. I just sort of watched and I thought, surely it can be done better than this. And I left being told by everybody, you're an idiot. It can't, you're wrong. The system is the system. I would say, kid, hang in there. Don't change, because I feel I'm very much the same person today I was then, because we had a moment where even my partners were like, doubting the whole, because we created a company after Breach. So really, let me go through just quickly. I did a short film which netted me on the short film I got cast in a movie, and by the time I had a whirlwind. By the way, I landed like 11 of my first 11 auditions. Like, it was
Wow.
crazy. Yeah. And I
Wow.
go, this is an easy business. This is easy. And I was like, it couldn't be farther from the truth. But
Yeah.
so I saw the struggles and I was like, what is it that change your voice, you got to have a neutral accent. Shit. The accent's what got me all the roles. So, I try to McConaughey it up when I can. And by the way, we need a new Southern guy, so I'll volunteer to do that. He's great. He's like my favorite actor, but the younger Southerners have let me do it.
Yeah.
So you just stop taking all the roles, Matt. So anyway, you go a couple of TV movies and you figure out real quick, if you're going to be in movies, you can't get stuck in that TV movie world. So I had to there is a part of a game to this now that you have to learn and play. And if you're not sharp, I say, I kind of adhere to the Philip Seymour Hoffman thing I heard once, which was take everything you can get cast in the first year or two of your acting career, and then after that, almost take nothing except stuff that moves your career in the direction you want to go. Because you got to get real footage. Somebody asked me, like, why did you do that movie? It's an action movie they didn't think was very good. And I go, if you notice, I produced 6 of them and I only put myself in 1 of them. The reason why is at some point, a damn director's got to see you holding a gun and killing people if you're going to be an action star. Because a lot of times they don't cast you off the actual audition or your reel. They really are just looking at, like, what do you look like on camera? What do you look like holding a gun? And would I fucking buy it?
Yeah.
That or somebody bought your role. There was a moment doing a movie and then a TV movie and then saying, I heard a producer say, well, I was going to take that Bruce Willis movie to Canada, but I was on a set and the producer said, I was going to take it to Canada, but now I'm looking somewhere in Georgia. So I immediately walked over, none of my business, because as an actor, I did something really weird, I think, considered weird. I show up every day to set and stay all day, even on days I'm not working.
Oh, wow.
Because I wanted to learn how the crew worked. And then I realized, no. I want to watch every argument, every debate, and I'm looking for good people. If this guy's yelling and screaming all the time, I don't want to work with him. If this guy's very level-headed, and I'm looking who's the most talented lighting guy, who's the most talented catering person, who's got the sweetest personality. And that's how I handpick my crew, by getting cast in movies and sitting on the set all day, every day, watching every move and going collectively, cumulatively, you are a great person, and I'm going to take you with it. So I just said, hey, I could shoot that Bruce Willis movie in my hometown cheaper than everybody else. Call my mayor and I go, hey, buddy, I made a bunch of promises. I got to back up. I need you to help save my ass on this.
Going after cast and understanding the way that Hollywood has been working up to this point. We'll see how it works after this, everything that's going on in society right now. But, it's funny because there's some of these actors have their own movies, and they know darn well that it's like what you just said. It's hard to finance a movie, and there's a million things that go into getting the film financed. And they're quote unquote attached to the film, and then see what happens. But in the past, when you reach out to agents, they say, what's the budget? It's so like crazy.
The budget's dependent on your actor, dude.
No, wait. What's the budget? Oh, it's a $10 million movie. So they know the game, but they want to make sure that you have the money before they even engage with you, because they don't know who you are.
But even studios, here's the thing, even studios don't have the money. They go get the money. That's the thing that aggravates the shit out of me. I go, dude, look, I've been on the phone with agents who went like this. Is it finance? If you say your talent wants to be a part of this, I've got 9 investors that are saying they will do it. It's a quid pro quo. I say I can get Gator to be in my movie. Gator says I need money to be in the movie. So I tell my investors, I'm going to get Steven Seffer. They say, if you get Steven Seffer, I will give you X amount of dollars. Then, like, you know what? Let me go back and explain quickly the thing I was saying about the lack of belief on the Bruce Willis thing, and we'll put a button on that, and then I'll immediately jump in, because this is a big topic about what we're about to go down is going to weave away from where I was going. Because you and I could talk forever about, not only does the investor have to say, I'm willing to pay for X actor and X movie, but they want the distributor to say it's worth X. Now you got to go to distributor and say, if I got X in money and X actor, Y money, what will you pay for it? And they so 3 different people want the chicken and the egg. The investor wants the actor wants the investor, distributor wants the actor and the investor.
Yeah.
And they're all going, come back with the other one.
Yeah. And you do all the work.
And you do all the work, but you get the lowest fee. And we're going to take, the investor and the distributor and the actor are going to take everything, but you do all the work. So let me just say briefly, go back and say, well, I told him I could build the Bruce Willis thing. This is the thing about confidence, arrogance, and cockiness, right? Some people will call me arrogant. Some people will call me cocky. That's fine. I look at that as a synonym of confident. I knew, if I know the objectives, if you would just give me clear damn objectives, not vagueness, but real objectives, I can pull it off. So I looked at an independent film, and I said, an independent film has all these variables: lodging, catering, and transportation, and all this. what if I could turn it into like a fixed McDonald's menu and you knew exactly when you come to Valdosta, Georgia, Tifton, Georgia, Fitzgerald, Georgia, that your lodging was going to be X and your cater's going to be X. You know how much brain power that saves the producer when he goes, I got 100%. The Georgia tax credit, I got the non-union thing, I got the lodging locked in, I got the catering locked in, and now I know these fixed costs, which in every movie I've ever done are like a variable that constantly keeps changing. So I've got that locked in. I've got, local cooperation. So I had a 80% of what you need figured out for them. Which, to your point, it's nice to go with Alex. I don't have to wonder what the lodging is going to cost.
Yeah, exactly.
I know the number. I can plug it into. I can plug it into the damn. Like I can tell you on your podcast right now, if you have I'm gonna make a pitch for myself and then go into that thing.
Yeah.
Workhorse Cinema and what we do in physical production, if you've got somewhere between $40,000 per day and up, I can make your movie.
Right.
So a low-end indie costs about $40,000 a day. Sure, I can still do the $200,000 total budget, 10-day student film-esque with high quality. Sure, you can, because it's all about the camera and the DP. Like as long as you got a nice camera and a good lens and a good DP and a director with vision and some good actors, you can make a great movie for $50,000. But my point being, on an average action movie, 45,000, 50,000 is kind of with inflation's where it's at now. You should figure about 50,000 a day.
Right.
So now all you need to do is how many days does my director need and what can I afford? So that's kind of what I created with Workhorse. And so my knowledge, and I'd like somebody in your comments to fact check, I think I built the largest spaceship Hollywood's ever built.
Really?
12,500 square foot of total spaceship built for the movie.
Wow.
And I'll tell you an anecdote. I went and did a movie called Lean and Snowball. Branscombe Richmond and Wade Williams and Robert Knepper, some of my favorite actors. They were great. It was an amazing little movie we did in my small hometown. And that sort of proved the model that we could do it. And then everybody's like, there's no way you're making that Bruce Willis movie here, though. He needs a big city. It's a big action movie. I said, no, I'm going to do it right here. So I got the city to sell me an old high school gym that was abandoned, a middle school gym, which is now owned by Billy Jack. I sold it to him. It still has the spaceship in it, by the way. And we built a 12,000 square foot spaceship, and I found the greatest production designer that's ever lived. Just didn't even work in movies 5 years ago. He just walks over from the small town next to me and goes, I'd like to help build this spaceship. And next thing you know, turns out now he's in the woods right now on his 16th movie, building a 3-story mansion, the facade in the woods, and all of Hollywood that has worked with him now realizes he's the greatest PD you've ever could imagine. And I just found him as a guy who never just walked across the street.
Smart.
I'm interested. So I utilize local talent, and I use Facebook, buddy, and just cast out a net. Who can do amazing shit? Who's got a jacked up redneck truck? Who's got a burned out trailer? I get most of my resources off an old Facebook page because the locals, respond to that. That's how we communicate. So anyway, I remember the city attorney, the city administrator, and the mayor believing in me about I'm going to bring Bruce Willis, and my wife believed me. But I would say even them, including my wife, maybe had 1% doubt. Like, is he full of shit? And so on the day Bruce Willis was supposed to show up, I kept telling everybody he shows up on whatever it was, Thursday at X time or whatever. I knew his private jet. I knew the time. And I remember standing on the tarmac with the mayor and my wife waiting on Bruce Willis. And if you've ever seen a private jet come into a small town, you're literally just standing there looking at trees and nothing's happening. Then all of a sudden, the private jet just bolts over the top of the trees and lands, and a movie star standing there. So it's amazing. Not some big ceremonial moment. It's just like there's no Bruce Willis. Now it's right. Maybe 5 minutes. I was looking at the watch. She's 4:19, right? Yeah. Mayor leans in. One of my biggest supporters, who basically I think lost the mayor race because he supported me the next time, because my small town just did not want Hollywood movies. They did not want it. He leans over and he goes, "This shit better be real."
Wow.
Yeah. So even he in the last moment had some doubts about what we were standing out there on that tarmac for,
Wow.
I get tickled thinking about it because he just put his arm around me. He's like, we're going to do big things. This is going to be awesome. All that bragging. And then he just stops and goes, this shit better be real, though. And then boom, all of a sudden, big white jet comes out of nowhere, lands off, gets Bruce Willis. The rest is history. I think I did 5 or 6 Bruce Willis movies in a row. You were on the third one, and I shot American Siege and Breach, and all with the same crew in the same small town, with the same catering, with the same lodging, and with little modifications here and there. And to your point, this finishes the whole, like, what would you tell yourself to keep doing it? Because even my partners who joined forces with me after they saw what I could do on the Bruce Willis movie Breach with Spaceship, they were like, we want to work with you. We see your vision. I was going to open a studio. I was going to build cabins. I was going to own the lodging and own the catering. And that dream has sort of gone away because the industry has changed, and now that doesn't make sense, right? But, I mean, even then we're like, I'm not sure that whole thing will work. And I'm happy to say that Workhorse Cinema and my crew have, in fact, proven my hypothesis and my dream true.
The one thing I was so impressed when I first was picked up at the airport, I was picked up by some of your crew, and I was like, "What's going on here?" Now, mind you, when I came to your set, I came from a whole, different kind of
You
adversary.
you came with an eyebrow raised.
Yeah, I didn't know what the fuck
To
was going to
say
happen.
the least. I mean, your eyebrow was up here. Unfortunately, the business side, the best way to say it, Gator, is that the business side often negatively impacts the art side.
And
Steven, I got a guest. We got a guest star that's going to speak to you briefly.
Hi, I love you. I miss you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
She called you Steven. I only know him as Gator.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Thank you.
That's the best second you've ever seen in your life.
No, no, absolutely.
And
I'll keep it. I'll keep it. So the thing is, this is what I was saying to Billy Slaughter, that it's all about survival. It's about surviving.
it is.
And if you can survive it, then you start thriving. And this is the way a lot of people, going back to the immigrant mentality, a lot of people come to this country or other countries and they have nothing, zero, and they have to build from scratch.
Yeah.
And I think this is the mentality of adaptation and constantly building. So where you're at and how you came about, you're like, well, I'm going to use my surroundings. I'm going to use my town. I'm going to use my people, and I'm going to do what I need to do. And because of that, you have proved everybody wrong, bro. And
you left out
because
my
of that,
charm and my good looks.
that your charm and good looks are given. You don't have to worry about
right there. That dimple will do it, right? It'll get a free meal at Waffle House at 4 in the morning.
I tell you, but that kindness and that honesty, integrity is what it's about. I want to tell you something. I spoke to a manager, big manager, works with big people. Some of the names you mentioned, he's part of that. And this is a couple of years ago, and I we were talking about films, and he said to me, and this is the funny part. He said to me, "Well, we like this one script you did, but I don't know, it's too independent." Okay, wasn't. But if you would have come to us with Bus 657, the Heist De Niro movie, we would have been interested in that. Okay, well, after the fact, it's real easy for you to say you're going to be interested. So the whole thing is that vision of, hey, this is just like Bus 657, if not better. It's years later.
Correct.
If you become better as you go, right? But he was just so limited and short-sighted.
But they all are. You're just describing every single person right now in the industry. Short of maybe, like, we should lift up the ones like A24 may not be your kind of tea. They may do some things that are weird or way out that you don't like. But I very much admire the quality of the stuff they're trying to make, because they were probably told this won't work. This is not going to be successful. I still okay. So a couple of things. Let's put we were able to go back to the deadlock thing for a second. You came in with the sword and the shield, and the survival instinct. To your point, is something that if you don't have in this business, you don't have thick skin, you don't have the ability to survive, you don't have the ability to adapt and evolve. Some would call it. I think people's natural inclination in this business, from the LA side and the New York side, is rather than a sense of self and a perseverance to push through, they see the sword and shield and survival technique as the industry's number one tool is I'm going to be phony. I'm going to just tell people what they want to hear. I'm going to kiss everyone's ass. I'm going to repost all my friends' movies. Oh, this is a great movie. You should go see this movie. It's the best movie. I'm going to do this thing. You're going to do this thing. Here's me taking a picture with Steven Spielberg talking to him about movies. Fake, fake, fake. And normal people see a big red flashing thing. Wow, wow. You stopped Steven Spielberg in the street. You said, let me get a selfie. And then you said discussing movies with Steven Spielberg. Phony, fake, I won't say what's on my mind. I'm never going to show you the real me has been the survival technique in Hollywood since the 40s and 50s. Appeasement. They want so badly to succeed. They will literally do anything. You find that a lot of the ones that succeeded that way continue to be instruments of the business. But you get a feeling the ones like Steve McQueen and Burt Reynolds probably went, you know how I'm going to succeed? Bam! If you don't cast me, I'm going to knock your fucking teeth out. And people like Chris Pratt with his Christianity, they prove themselves before Hollywood. Like I always say, there is a strategy. Now with podcasts and social media, you can bypass Hollywood and get right to everyone. So that's the good news. And I do think even Disney and studios are going to end up going away from movies because movies they're still going to be big movies. But my point being is you won't need to go through the studio or a piece of studio to have a career. You just won't. So, I mean, there's Christian stars now making millions of dollars. You know what I mean? And they don't even shoot a movie you've ever seen before. You know, it's like only on one channel and they have their niche audience and that's it. And so, you know, I think that because we did get through a time where it's like we don't want tough men that say what's on their mind and do the, you know, like that kind of went away for a little while. And you came in with the sword and the shield because you'd been screwed around and you felt you'd been unfairly treated, taken advantage of. And so what I think that where you and I bonded is what people need to take a message from me. Survival needs to be about no longer getting along or looking around saying, I don't want anybody to hear this, but about being, I'm going to have a strong sense of self. You did a great job of saying by day 2, like, oh, these people are not from the business and right. I can let my guard down here.
Right.
You know, because I will say you can't just go into any dinner, any meeting. Your career will not last long in the old Hollywood way. Yeah. I would love to address how the distribution is going and how used to you knew a list of exactly who was worth what and what to offer them. And it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, I'd love to hear your perspective. But what I'm seeing now is through streamers and maybe the last 5 to 10 years of there being sort of an arms race of building up content, people like Netflix and Hulu and Disney and studios have overpaid actors, even in supporting roles and day playing roles. And now that all the content's getting cut back and even the studios are saying, well, I could do these things cheaper and I need to start doing them cheaper. The actors and their managers are not wanting to take less, while the value of them is coming down. And it seems like this is that truth and honesty thing. No one's telling the actor, hey, buddy, your manager won't tell you, but you're not worth what you're asking for. And it's not an insult. It's a reality. Like, or let's just use a generic distributors. None of these distributors are saying you're not as good of an actor or you're not as famous. They're literally saying their ability to sell the product has come down. So I just don't understand the unwillingness to, like, I know you're seeing it, but it's like, all right, well, let's start from the beginning. So good morning, children. Welcome to Gator and Kane's Movie Making 101. The first thing you're going to need is a good script. Story is king. The second thing you're going to need, whether you believe it or not, according to the industry, is the money immediately. That's not reality. So you got a good story. You need to figure out a way to get an actor of some value interested behind the scenes through behind the manager. Because if you don't come with more than a script, get in line with the 9 million other people that are trying to get a script made. So a movie to move from what I consider phase 1 to phase 2, because in my development sort of slate, you move up the scale by the resources you have. If you have a script, you're phase 1. If you have a script and a director and And then potential investors, that's phase 2. You know, oh, you got a script and John Malkovich wants to do it. Now we're at phase 3. So you got to have. I got a script. It's got some money, and it can be financing money or equity, or escrow money for the talent. Actually, I prefer you to just, hey, you got $200,000 to throw at 2 different actors or 3 different actors. That locks in your talent. So we're at a phase now where the actors aren't as valuable. Distribution doesn't know what they want to pay. We not even sure how it's who's gonna watch it where. Like, how many of these stories have you had with your friends? Oh, you can see it on jelly and peanut butter and jelly TV on if you log into the app and click this link and sign up for 32. Like, you don't have any mechanism to control where it's going to who. You could sell it once and it end up on Tubi or Netflix, and you don't get any extra money. Whether it's on Netflix's #1 or it's on Billy Bob's late night horror channel, you don't control. So the myth of like, I make movies, I'm wealthy, or it's easy, forget that. It's a producing life is working 24/7, 365 days a year. If the phone rings and it's Tom Cruise on Christmas Day when your kids are opening presents, you got a decision to make, buddy. You're going to take that call, or you're not going to take that call. And I'd like to tell you that I'm a man's man and a dad, and I'm not going to take that call. The reality is, Tom Cruise, maybe he don't celebrate Christmas, and he's calling this morning, and this is your career. Not, your career's calling. You're going to pick up or not. Opportunity passing you by. So, how many times have you looked at a phone and you went, oh, shit, blah, 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 famous or person I need. I missed the call 30 minutes ago. And you're not sure if they're going to answer when you call back. You're like, that could have been it, and I missed it. So with movies, you need pieces. You can't just have a script. You got to have a script. Then what more do you got? I do this all the time. I got a great script, man. Actors are going to want to do this script. Get in line. Get in line. Because guess what? Actors will do terrible scripts if you got the money. So
yeah. So they need to live, yes.
Yeah, so you don't know who's going through a divorce or whose agent stole money or attorney stole money. I'm super optimistic. I believe every script, every thought in my head has a chance to get made. But I tend to prioritize the movies that have money, talent. By the way, provable talent, not Chris Pine said he wants to do this movie. When I met him at a premiere and told him, and he was like, yeah, man, I'm in. No. Do you have him under contract, or do you have at least an email from him saying, or a text saying, if you do X, I will do Y? And that's where I think the common sense practicality of me coming from a regular life is. Since day one, I've never believed like, oh man, so-and-so might show up and be on this movie. Is it under contract? Right. Is it under contract? Because until it is, and by the way, Gator, it ain't even a movie to me. They'll say, well, let me know when the movie's real. Bro, I could be on set for 2 days and it still not be real if the money don't come in. If tranche 2 don't come in, the movie's not real. So, yeah, we might be making a movie, but no one's getting paid if the investor doesn't send the money in. And I can tell you some stories about finishing an entire movie and there be no investor backs out at the last minute and nobody gets paid. And the whole movie's done with known movie stars. So, like, there's a lot of stories like that. So I would like to hear, listen, I know that you're interviewing me, but I consider us buddies just chit-chatting here, and I think that this could be an ongoing thing about the industry. I don't have all the answers. Hell, you can bring somebody else on here and they can argue with everything I'm saying because this is a business full of opinions. There's very little fact, right?
I think you are the very matter-of-fact things that you're bringing up are very hands-on, boots on the ground kind of things that are happening that you're talking about. I think the thing with Hollywood is they're waiting on the next big studio, either a TV show or a movie or a packaging deal that they're part of. And when you come in from Georgia or you're an outsider from
bumfuck redneck,
wherever you're coming from, and they don't know you, right? They don't know you. They don't they don't trust you. And I don't blame them for not trusting.
Me neither.
I don't blame them because there's a lot of bullshit artists out there that lie through their teeth and they're not really real in any way. But I think part of getting on this podcast and starting this journey and talking to people like yourself is meant to do that. Is meant to put our words out there. Meaning, for example, like I don't produce movies hands on like you do, but I do about one or two films a year or some kind of project that's creative. And the reality is, for the rest of the year, you're silent and there's nothing going on. And I was like, I got a lot to say, and there's a lot I got to do. So I'm going to
Yep.
start this podcast, and I think it's people are really responding to it. And the shift that I was talking about was this is part of it. This communication, this is going to trickle into everybody's home, and
Yes.
people will start listening and understanding the concept, and at the same time trailblazing the path forward. So to answer your question, do I know where this is going? I'll tell you what I do know. Hollywood is in a major shift. Streamers are trying to figure it out. They don't know really what's happening. Independent film is going to come through. A lot of people who are innovators and risk takers are going to succeed, and they're going to rearrange the entire game plan. And that's what's
Yeah.
going on in Hollywood.
I think independent filmmakers, the last piece of the wild frontier that we have to figure out, because I think we've pretty much domesticated most of the West at this point. What independent filmmakers have to figure out now is how to get directly to the consumer where their dollars flow to us instead of to the studio where the studio decides what crumbs we get, even with independent film. So I'm talking to some people that are movers and shakers, and I look for theater chains. Like, I have a thought on this, and I think the theater chains would be wise to do this. I might even engage with some guys to buy some theater chains, but charge $20 for the Disney movie, but charge $1.99 ticket for Deadlock. Scale it. Because if people could pay $3 and go see Deadlock, they would. But they're not going to pay $20 when the other option is Fall Guy. If they got a Ryan Reynolds, a Tom Cruise, and Brad Pitt movie in my indie, if they got to spend 20 across the board, they're not going to choose me. But hey, if they said, Wednesday night, independent film action movies, it's got Mel Gibson in it, $3.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Like, why not scale it? Because
Well,
I
this
don't
is
need
the
to get $20 a ticket.
this is the other thing that goes along with what you're talking about, which is when you make an independent movie, you have the money for the film itself, and
Yeah.
then nobody puts anything into marketing because they don't
Yeah.
have the money, right? But the studios come in and they have another 10 million just for marketing. And what
P&A,
happens
sure.
and for what happens to your independent film is that nobody hears about it. You got trolls on the
Correct.
internet who are just gonna try to shit on it. Maybe those
That's it.
trolls will work for a studio that are just because why would you comment on a movie and you don't even know what the storyline is and you're shitting on
That's
it
it.
frame
Probably
one?
didn't even watch it. Probably didn't even watch
No,
it. Played on their phone most of the
100% they didn't
time.
watch it. 100% they didn't watch it. So there comes this thing about getting the platform to actually talk about what you're doing and show them and talk about behind the scenes. And listen, a lot of people out there just don't have a clue how like Netflix has this thing I've been told that when you sign a deal with Netflix, I've never done a movie with them, that you see something that says number one, oh, ranked number one, and you watch 5 minutes of it, like, how the fuck is this number one?
And how do I know that it's number one? That's their
It's
way.
not. That's the whole
their
point.
way of promoting P&A. And I noticed they have very much. Listen, I'm not anti streaming or how it's going. I'm speaking from the position that you and I are in, and my opinion is, would I love to make a movie with and for Netflix? Yes. Would I love to have that legendary Warner Brothers logo on one of my movies? Yeah. Would I like to have been Tom Cruise and Clint Eastwood and had these deals with Paramount? Listen, I'm romanticized Hollywood, the old Hollywood. I would love to have the DreamWorks logo and the New Line Cinema. Those things are important to me, and I hope they never go away. But in the meantime, I can't make enough money to live a comfortable life, and I'm out here going through the same grind it takes to make a movie as the studio, except they're spending 180 days making it and $150 million, and I'm making it in 12 or 20 days with $450,000 or $800,000 below the line, and the talent's getting another $2 million to just show up for 3 or 4 days, you know? And so I think finding ways to monetize the product where more of it comes to, by the way, crew getting a piece, meaning I would love to be able to move forward and say, we're going to line up 10 action films and I'm going to distribute them this way. I want to figure out, you know, a system where you're just banging out good quality independent films and your crew. And I've had this going a couple of times, and it's the investor's part not coming through that always screws this up. So, you know, I could see a world where I can finance movies through a bank, that I don't have to have an investor, that I'm financing off. Let's say, for instance, the best way to do it is you get one guy like a Billy Jack or somebody, and they've got, say, 500 acres of land. You borrow against the acreage to make the first movie. Then you make them, and to get the first 3 movies going, right? You have enough money to get the first 3 going. And because I've talked about this with some very intelligent actors that are very wise to the game and real people that are also stars, like Theo Rossi, an amazing actor. His career's blowing up right now, as it should. He's been one of the best actors since he got in the game as Juice and Sons of Anarchy. He's got The Penguin going right now. Again, #1 movie on Netflix, Carry On, with Jason Bateman, Theo Rossi, and Taron Egerton, who, by the way, I think Theo stole the show in that. Theo's a fantastic actor, and he talks about making great movies isn't about how much budget, how much money do I have. It's about the story. It's about the great content. He wants to make more movies like The Goonies and Monster Squad, and, you know, the movies we all love from the 80s and the 70s, and that's so much deeper, more profound, and was far more entertaining than the stuff we're putting out now, right? It's got more heart. It's got more, the characters are more 3-dimensional. And there's no agenda really to it. And if there was, they tried to hide it so well that by the time you were over, you thought, you know what, I kind of think better about that situation. And so it wasn't so much slammed down your throat. And so anyway, making a movie while prepping a movie, and then sort of staggering those, which the crew is getting a regular pay, plus they own, say, 5% of every movie in that slate moving forward, so that they have 6 to 12 months worth of steady work, and all of those movies get churned out and then are shopped. And then, you know, I'm really close friends with Maria Menounos and her husband Kevin, who I think are brilliant people, and they're just the kindest people, and they're also the sharpest people, very real. And they have such a promotional mechanism that it's crazy. Like, if you notice on you ever gotten gas and there's a gas station TV and it's running ads on it? Well, Maria's a huge piece of that. She's on that. And she's Maria at the movies before every movie comes on. And Maria's now in airports. And so Maria's everywhere. And so Maria and Kevin have the ability to, like, work a situation where your independent film trailer can run on all of that, reaching 111 million people a month at a fraction of the cost it would cost you to do it with a studio. And I'm not suggesting they're offering that or that is currently in place, but we have talked about that being a mechanism for indie films. Imagine going to the gas station, indie film trailers are just running constantly, and like Walmart at the back shelf while the TVs are running, and at the airports just running all these ads for these smaller movies. But no one's making movie stars, and this is how you make them. You get people, regular actors, new actors out there in movies you like. And so we've got to find a broader audience for cheaper, which social media is going, and AI and Instagram and all this stuff is going to be hugely helpful. So it's sitting right there for some independent filmmakers to join together, and it doesn't have to be competitive. I think a bunch of different groups can do it, but making a movie, getting it promoted to the people are purchasing it, and the money is flowing right back to the actual filmmakers so they can replicate the process. And there's no one corrupting or perverting or disrupting the flow of filmmaker to audience, back to filmmaker, back to audience, so that you can now have the relationship with the audience directly, and instant feedback, real feedback about, well, that one didn't work, so we need to do this. So we need to do that. And that one didn't work as well. Is it the person? Is it the actor? Is it the story? I mean, Taylor Sheridan essentially has got the content part figured out, right? And that is, he said, you know what? I'm not like, I'm making movies for Americans. The 80% of America that's in the middle, they're not on the fringe left or the fringe right. They want to see a guy working in the oil business. They want to see a guy a rancher. They want to see the stories about their uncles and their aunts and their cousins and their Uncle Billy and their guy they know down the road. Just a lot of the stuff. Listen, we all love a good sci-fi movie when it's done right. You know, Predator, Alien, Star Wars, great stuff. But your everyday TV shows, people want to see Dukes of Hazzard. People want to see Yellowstone. People want to see Sons of Anarchy. They want to see shades of themselves. When you don't have the budget, the other thing is a little tiny side note. If you ain't got the budget to go big, don't try to go big. It just looks corny, right? Don't write a $300 million movie and go, let's ram it into a $3 million budget. You say, you know, you as a writer, you have scripts you just are passionate, you write, and I'm sure there's some you just put to the side and you go, one day when I got $50 million, I'll make this one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a way to come about it. I think the independent film world is now getting into a place and getting into the race. And instead of sitting on the sidelines waiting for the people who are now really worried about their jobs before they make a decision to buy or sell any movie, the people who took the most have taken the most percentages of the money that comes in from your hard work as a filmmaker. Like you said, you do all the work, you take the least amount of money.
Compared to the crew, we do no work. Here's what I hear a lot of. Well, we should shoot it this way, and we should shoot it over here in this town, and we should go over there, and we should cast this person. And anybody who's not made a movie from the producer side will not understand this phrase, but this is the reality. And I have two friends that made their first movies producers, and boy, the text I'm getting, the phone calls about, oh, we never realized, oh my God, we have so much more respect. How many times you heard it, Stephen? But you should cast, or you should do, what if we did, what if, buddy, the money is going to tell us what we do. They're going to tell us who to cast, where to shoot, when to shoot, on what budget, or they're going to say, guess what? You don't get my money. Mm-hmm. And now this is finally segued into the fun part. Hey, you know what would be a great role? This role. You want to play this role, Seffer? Man, that would be an awesome role for you. A week before you start, producer comes in. Hey, you know that role you offered to Steven Seffer? We got this lady who's got a son, and she's willing to give $400,000 to the movie as an equity position if he can play that role. Yep. And the director goes, I don't want him. And everybody goes, hell, the main actors might be upset. And they go, well, they're already under contract. Tough shit. This is what's happened. Equity actors buying roles is a huge problem in independent film because some of them are fine actors. And without their help, the movies won't get made. But I've seen it get to the crazy absurd side of it where it's like now we're giving lead roles to people that have never acted, and it's like, what kind of product are we trying to make here? And it seems like nobody's willing to tell them, like, casting yourself in the lead is going to cost you all your money. Like, it's not smart. It's not that you're not good. It's literally fucking dumb. Like, why would you do this? And so I never can get it through to actors, by the way, that are so desperate and struggled. And I think, again, back to the young guy that started this at 37, which is not really that young. But you asked, what would I tell that Alex Kane? I would say humility, man. Realize common sense.
I appreciate your candid conversation. All the folks that you mentioned are awesome, including James Franco. I'm a big fan of James, and I hope he does a movie with me eventually. With us.
He's the best.
And God bless you. Please stay safe, and please keep who you are, man, because that they can't take away from you.
Well, listen. This is why I say it's working so far.